So you had a brother that was a St. Louis police officer. He was working undercover back in 2017, and he was being a part of a protest at the time. And what happened to him, his fellow St. Louis police officers decided to beat him up and beat him really bad. I mean, even though he was a police officer, he was getting his behind beat. Now, some black folks would be like, well, why is he infiltrating a, protest for? Well, why is he doing that? And that's a legitimate question to ask, because when I know my people are hurting, well, I'm trying to infiltrate and go inside of a protest for. I mean, most of those protests that you see, people just protesting because at the time period they was protesting against a officer that was acquitted. But a jury made up of 11 whites and one black woman found one officer not guilty on all charges. He was ruled deadlocked by the U.S. District Judge Catherine Perry on charges against the two other cops after deliberating for nearly 14 hours. Let me tell you about these juries. It's 2021 and we still don't have a mandatory way of handling jury selection based on race. That system in itself is why black people get so convicted. Now, let me tell you something. Last Monday, I went to jury duty and I was sitting there like, man, I don't feel like being here, whatever. I said, but I'm here. But something told me, look around. So I looked up, I looked around, and all I see is a sea of white folk. Now, I started looking for black folks. It was like me and another brother sitting next to me. I seen another sister walk in, then I seen another sister, but it wasn't that many black people. Then I started saying, okay, what are Hispanics? I seen maybe one or two of them. I think maybe it seemed like one Asian person. But it was just a sea of white folks. So then they break you up into different jury pools. So I was in this particular jury pool, and so I went in the thing. I looked around again, a sea of white folk. Matter of fact, I was the only, it was a black woman. It was me and another black woman was the only two out of about 50 people that was sitting there. And when they picked the jury, they picked an all white jury. I'm like, how do they still get away with that? Like, that's things that y'all brothers and sisters need to be fighting about. I know y'all talk about criminal justice reform, but y'all need to get involved in reforming the way they pick juries, because that's where the convictions come from. They pick these all white juries, or like this jury, 11 white folks and one black person. How do you do that? It don't make sense. I mean, that should have a jury of all people groups, not just 11 white folks and one. But anyway, let me continue. So St. Louis, police detective Luther Hall was working undercover, as we said, in the protest in 2017, and was approached by those, race soldiers, and say Stephen Corte, who is still on the force, was found not guilty of all charges. Former officer Christopher Myers was acquitted on one count of deprivation of rights, and the jury cannot reach a verdict on a destruction of property charge against him. That say the jury could not come up with a unanimous decision on either count against former officer Dustin Boone, who was charged with depriving Hall of his civil rights under the color of law and aiding and abetting in the commission of a crime. That said, Boone, Myers, and Corte were all charged for depriving Hall of his civil rights under the color of law, which carried a maximum sentence of 10 years. So they didn't get any of that. Now, I said Myers was charged with destruction of evidence after he destroyed Hall's phone to get rid of the evidence and to hamper the investigation. So they destroyed his phone while he was there. Corte was charged with lying to the FBI by stating he wasn't part of the arrest. And say Corte was let go at the time period, and Boone and Myers was released on bond. Now they have a group called the Ethical Society of Police, which represents black officers in St. Louis. They say they respect, the jury decision, but they definitely disagree with it. They're basically getting away, with a crime. They said the police officers continue to escape the consequence of their actions, and said the criminal justice system continues to show African-American victims of police violence that we don't receive the same level of justice when white police officers are accused of excessive force toward African Americans. If you look at the history of uprisings in America, the majority of them are because of police brutality or police doing something, getting off. You look at the LA riots. You look at the situation George Floyd is by the police. I mean, you can name every uprising. You look at what happened in Baltimore. You look at what happened in Ferguson. It's always behind some race soldier. Think about that. They're the reason why all this stuff jumps off. But see, they want to protect that entity because they understand that without the enforcement wing of white supremacy, it's not going to last too long. This is why they're willing to give your tax dollars, not out of their cop's pocket, but your tax dollars to victims. They still say, you know what, let's pay these victims millions of dollars and make them, I guess they sign an NDA or whatever, and that's the end of it. And nobody says, wait a minute, our tax dollars shouldn't be going to that. Why that cop is not paying anything? His pockets need to be ran through. Y'all need to strip everything of him and pay those people. Why is it that our tax dollars can be going to infrastructure and businesses and schools, all of that? But no, y'all rather give millions upon millions of dollars to victims, and they deserve it. But why is it that you won't clamp down on these police? It's because the voters haven't clamped down on city councils and mayors and saying, no, you're not going to be doing it. Why is he even still on the force? Why is he even still get to go back to any kind of law enforcement job? Why isn't he in jail? So it said the brother, you know, he has suffered a tailbone injury. He sustained a 2-centimeter laceration above his lip and had surgery to repair a herniated disc in his neck and his back. I mean, they beat the hell out of that brother. Wow. They beat the hell out of him. So St. Louis ended up giving the brother $5 million earlier this year to settle a lawsuit he filed against the city in 2019. He said in the suit, Hall claimed he was also beaten by Joseph Marcantonio, and that he later promoted to sergeant, claiming misconduct is not only protected but rewarded by the city and department. So they say 2 other officers, Randy Hayes and Bailey Coletta, pled guilty for their roles and they're awaiting sentencing. Now the chief, John Hayden at the department, said that they will now move forward internal investigation and asking the FBI to turn everything over to them so they can conduct their investigation. But you know, the St. Louis Police Department, I'm telling y'all, when I went to St. Louis, I seen them jokers running around like, man, even with Donye Jones's family said how they was harassing Donye Jones's other brother, you know, asking him, hey, you know what happened to your brother? And they knew exactly what happened to his brother, but yet they harassing him. I mean, I'm telling y'all, you got some raised soldiers. I mean, big time in these police departments. The whole entity is corrupt. And you can't go inside and say, you know, I'm going to go in, I'm going to change it. You can't change it from the inside. It's that corrupt. Any person that tries to change it from the inside, they're attacked. You understand? They're sent on calls where they know it's going to be dangerous and don't get backup because they want to try to see if something can happen to them because they told something. I was told a story over a weekend that a guy was working with the Missouri City Police Department, actually here locally in the Houston area, Missouri City. And the guy said he quit because one of the cops here with him said, hey, oh, look, there's 2 Mexicans. Let's go pull the Mexicans over. And he said, why you want to pull them over for? So he said, he didn't do anything. So he said, all right, whatever. So he pulled them over, checked their registration. He said one guy was driving, the other guy was just drunk on the side, but he was, you know, he wasn't driving. And they said the cop ended up taking $200 out of the drunk guy's wallet and let him go. Understand what I'm saying? And he said that, why did you take their money? He was like, what are you doing? He said, that's what we do. We take money, you know, and he said he felt he couldn't even say anything because he'll be attacked if he says anything. I mean, and so the good cops usually quit and usually have the worst ones still being police officers. So either the way it goes with race soldiers in this country, either you don't say nothing, you turn a blind eye and just leave it alone, or you quit. And this country runs like that with a lot of these local police departments. This is why I always said I don't like the police department system. They need to be on the federal system because the federal system, they can't get away with that. This is why they fight so hard about this states' rights crap. I hate even the term states' rights because it was birthed in racism. Like basically, we don't want to follow all the civil rights laws, so we want our states' rights. So we basically continue to oppress black people. That's where the states' rights come from. Look it up. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular story with our brother. You know, it's sad. You know, it's utterly sad. And we know this is why, you know, a lot of times uprisings start because lack of no justice at all for black people.